Amber and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to do my Owl's Magical Readathon TBR, which is actually also most of my April TBR, since I've been doing kind of more like let myself decide TBRs recently. This one is actually the most books on a TBR that I've had all year, but I don't mind because I love the Owl's Magical Readathon. This readathon was created by G over at Book Roast, and she does a way better job explaining everything that goes into it. The gist of it is it's a Harry Potter based readathon, and there are careers that you can pick and classes to take based on those careers, and what you read now in April will affect what classes you can take in August, and I'm super excited to be participating. That being said, last year I read every single prompt in the second round in August, and I'm hoping to potentially do the same again this year, but I also don't know what career I want, so at the very least I want to read every single book for the round in April so I can potentially narrow down my career in August just a little bit and give myself any option that I so choose. With that being said, this is my TBR. The first challenge is for Ancient Runes, and that is to read a book with a heart in the title or on the cover. And for that, I'm going to be reading Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman. This is the third bind-up of the webcomic by Alice Oseman. This is a prequel series to her standalone novel Solitaire, and it is about two boys who develop a friendship and maybe something more. I've heard that this is the starting point of where it's headed to the prequel stuff that happens prior to Solitaire start. The next challenge is for Arithmancy, and that is to read a book outside of your favorite genre, and I figured I would take that one step further and read it from the genre that I'm trying to read more from this year, and as well as read a book from this BookTube SFF Awards, since I have been kind of struggling to pick those up recently. And for that I chose A Memory Called Empire. I still have this one from the library since the library has not reopened. And this one is about an ambassador who's far from home, and her predecessor has been killed, and her one connection to home has now gone dark. And I've heard really good things about this one from a couple people who have already read this one for the awards, and I'm looking forward to getting to this one, especially since I'm trying to get more into sci-fi. I feel like this one is a good pick for this category. Next up is Astronomy, and for this one the prompt is to read a book mostly when it's dark out, and for this one I decided to read another BookTube SFF Award nominee, and that one is To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. This is a short novella and is actually the last one in the novella category that I have to read, so it'd be nice to have a category checked off. This one is about space and astronauts, and I really don't want to know much else because it's such a short novella, but I feel like I can read most of this, if not the entirety of this, when it is dark out. Next up is Care of Magical Creatures, and the prompt for this one is to read a book with a beak on the cover, and this one was actually the hardest challenge for me to like scour my shelves for books with beaks on the covers, because I'm limited to what I have access to right now with the library being closed, and I didn't want to try to get an ebook or an audiobook and it not be available in time. And I ended up realizing that I owned the audiobook for The History of Magic, and this has the phoenix on the cover, and phoenixes have beaks, and so I was like, this is perfect. I can read a Harry Potter book during the Harry Potter readathon. I'm excited. All I know about this one is it kind of runs through the history of magic, and it's kind of like the Hogwarts textbook. Next up is Charms, and that is to read a book with a white cover. And for this one, I'm going to be reading The Shell Collector. This is actually one of the oldest ebooks that I have on my TBR that I actually kind of know something about. This is a short story collection, and it all involves nature, and I'm looking forward to finally understanding kind of where this is coming from, especially since I have kind of kept it on my TBR because of how pretty this cover is, and I don't read a ton of short story collections, and I was drawn to this at some point for some reason, you know? Next up is Defense Against the Dark Arts, and this one is to read a book set at the sea/coast, and I have a couple other books that could have fit for this one, but I don't know when a better time to read this novella would have been, and I'm trying to read more books that I own this year, and I decided to read From Scratch, which is a short contemporary romance that is set at a small seaport town, and it involves a plus-size black main character, the cop, and the fire chief, and their budding romance between the three of them, and I am looking forward to checking it out. I haven't read very many romances that are polyamorous. I'm looking forward to checking this one out. Next up is Divination, and that is to use a random number generator and to pick a book from it, and I decided to randomly number generate all my ebooks and audiobooks because I have a shelf on my Goodreads that contains all my ebooks and audiobooks, and so I randomly number generated the number from that shelf, and I ended up getting a tough case to crack. This is a cozy mystery that I picked up when I was like in a cozy mystery binging fest, and this one is a foodie cozy mystery, and it is about a murder, and they want to solve the murder so that the shop can open up on time, and I believe it's a nut shop, so I'm looking forward to checking this one out because I do love a good cozy mystery and a good foodie cozy mystery. Next up is herbology, and the task for this one is to read a book that starts with M, and for this one I'm reading Marriage Inconvenience, and this involves two people who used to be best friends, and then one of them kind of moved away and they both need money, and so they get married because one of them has an inheritance that she will inherit once she is married. It's not my first rodeo with this author, and I'm looking forward to trying something else out by her. This is a queer marriage of convenience, but also fake marriage, kind of fake dating story. I'm looking forward to seeing how this one pans out. This author has a tendency to have super short and super sweet stories. I'm looking forward to checking this one out. Next up is History and Magic, and this one is super easy for me, and it is just to read a book with witches or wizards, and I have so many of those on my TBR, but I decided to go with one that I owned physically, and that is The Near Witch by Victoria Schwab. This is the reprint of her debut book since it had been out of print, and this is about a bedtime story kind of coming to life, and that is The Near Witch, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this story and Victoria's writing has evolved over time. I'm very much so looking forward to checking this out. The next prompt is for Muggle Studies, and that is to read a book involving Muggles, aka a contemporary, and I figured what better time than the present to restart Dreamin' Sun. This follows a girl who has decided that she wants to run away, and she's offered a chance to live at this house, but she has to tell her family why she's running away and have a dream, and it is the story of romance and self-discovery, and I got to like volume 6 the last time, and there's like 10 volumes total. I want to restart it so I can basically finish it, and I'm looking forward to it. It's by the same author that did Orange, and I'm very much so looking forward to restarting it. I probably will continue on if I end up having time. The next prompt is for potions, and that is to read a book under 150 pages, and basically this is the easiest prompt probably for me because I like to stockpile novellas that are under 150 pages for Dewey's 24-hour readathon, which is actually happening in April, so that really works out for me, especially since I wanted to read this book that I want to read for this prompt in the next round of Dewey's, and that book is To Tame a Wicked Widow, and this is the second book in the Surrey Sexual Freedom Society, and this follows a widow and a scholar, and they are short historical romances, and if I get in the mood I might continue on in this series because there's, I believe, 2 more after this one that are already out, and I'm looking forward to picking this one up, but I definitely am going to be reading this one during Dewey's 24-hour readathon, which is again in April, so it works out. And the very last prompt is for Transfiguration, and that is to read a book involving shape-shifting, and I actually read a lot of books involving shape-shifting as someone who reads a lot of paranormal books, and for this one I'm going to be reading the Dryad's Paw Print, and this involves a panther shifter, and he has kind of fallen out with his clan, but he's coming back because he's been summoned, and I'm looking forward to checking this one out. It was on my e-reader. For some reason it sparked my interest at some point. I'm looking forward to figuring out what that reason was. Alright, so those are the books that I'm hoping to read for the Owl's Magical Readathon. What about you? Are you participating in the Owl's Magical Readathon? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like what you saw here today, be sure to like and subscribe. I normally post videos on Wednesdays. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day!